Hopes of a rapid ceasefire in Syria have been dismissed by Bashar al-Assad. In a televised speech made to Syria's top lawyers, the president said a cessation of hostilities, as agreed by world powers in Munich, was not possible by the end of the week, contrary to US and Russian estimates. Until now, we hear about them requesting a ceasefire within a week. OK, then who is capable of bringing together all these conditions within a week? No one. Who will speak to the terrorists? If a terrorist organisation refuses to adhere to the ceasefire, who will make them accountable? Assad also said that any political transition in the country must be subject to the existing Syrian constitution and went on to belittle Turkey and Saudi Arabia. They are merely following orders. Their current role is to blow their own trumpets in order to try and blackmail us if we go to another round of talks, and are threatening us with a ground invasion if we don't offer concessions. If they'd been allowed to do this, they would have done so a long time ago. Despite Assad's scepticism, the UN envoy to Syria, Staffan de Mistura, has made a surprise visit to the capital Damascus as part of his effort to follow up on commitments made in Munich.
Thank you.
The latest slaughter in Syria is a war crime, say France and Turkey. For the UN, Monday's missile attacks on hospitals and schools in rebel-held areas that left up to 50 civilians dead were a violation of international law. With one of its hospitals reduced to rubble, Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, says either the Syrian government or its main supporter, Russia, was responsible.
Our staff in the field, the medical staff, the patient, they immediately report, they say, those are airstrikes from the Russian. But at the same time, the information was not so clear because other people in the area, other staff, report that the shelling were coming from the ground.
Russia is being widely blamed, including by Turkey, though Syria's ambassador in Moscow claims American warplanes were behind the attack on the medical charity's facility. The US insists it's put a premium on trying to halt the violence.
We have condemned that in the strongest terms, and we think it runs counter, frankly, to the commitment made in Munich on Friday and to our shared interest in seeing the violence reduced, civilians allowed to receive humanitarian assistance, which is of critical importance.
Further complicating the conflict, Turkey is now shelling Kurdish positions in northern Syria, fearing the expansion of Kurdish influence there will encourage separatist ambitions among its own Kurds.
The UK Prime Minister has met with French President François Hollande ahead of a European summit. David Cameron is hoping to secure backing for his EU renegotiation plans. That would help him make the case to voters in the UK to keep Britain in the bloc. The UK is due to hold a referendum on whether to stay in or leave the EU in what's become known as Brexit. Cameron met Hollande for an hour on Monday and will meet members of the European Parliament in Brussels later today. Meanwhile, the leader of the European Council said that an EU summit on Thursday will be crucial for the future of the European Union. Donald Tusk said the risk of a breakup was real.
This is a critical moment. It is natural in negotiations that positions harden as we get closer to crunch time. But the risk of breakup is real, because this process is indeed very fragile. Handle with care. What is broken cannot be mended.
David Cameron needs the 27 other EU leaders to agree to his plans at the summit. If they do, he might call the EU membership referendum as soon as June.
Leaders from Hungary, Poland, the Czech Republic and Slovakia mark 25 years of the so-called Visegrad group created to further the nation's European integration. However, Monday's anniversary meeting was about the migration crisis and a proposal to create a second fence on Fyром's and Bulgaria's borders with Greece. The plan's controversial as it effectively means eliminating Greece from the Schengen zone, Europe's 26-nation passport-free travel region. Poland's Prime Minister took issue with this, saying that the alternative Plan B was not aimed against any particular European Union member. Instead, it was intended as part of a joint initiative within the whole of the European Union. with the group calling for further actions to assist the Balkan states as the bloc tries to find complementary solutions within the EU.
W ramach Unii Europejskiej I traktujemy je jako wkład w działania całej Unii.
The group's plan comes after months of what it sees as the EU's chaotic response to the migration crisis and the inability of Greece to protect the bloc's southern border. The plan will be presented at this week's crucial EU summit.